How's it going, guys? So this week on the PhantomCave YouTube channel, we're going to be having a look at the latest Phantom comic. So this week's Phantom comic is The Messengers of the Jungle, so number 1898, and the cover art for this week is Antonio Lemos. Look at that magnificent cover art by him. He does a very fine job when it comes to doing Phantom paintings and Phantom artworks. Now let's get into the story. I hope you enjoy this story, and this Saturday, coming this Saturday on the channel, we will be reviewing one of the, hopefully not one of the last ever publications of a Kid Phantom story. So Kid Phantom number 11 Kid Phantom number 10 came out over the week or so, last week or so we'll be reviewing that very soon, and that will be reviewed on Saturday, this coming Saturday. So the Phantom story we've got for you today is The Messengers of the Jungle. Now, the writer of this story is Don Avenell, and the artist for it is Georges Bess. Now, this original story was published by Semk Press in Sweden, Phantom number 11 in 1981. Now the story, it has a lot of traditional sort of story arcs and story elements that we saw through the 60s to the 90s, where in the 60s to the 90s decades we saw Seymour Barry, he was doing a great job in the Phantom dailies and Sundays, and a lot of people appreciate his work that he did for over the 30 years that he did for his Phantom career and Phantom artist career for the dailies and Sundays. Now, this story, it basically embellishes what Seymour Barry created in those decades. And I see, well, in those decades, you see a lot of stories that sort of have the same sort of arc or the same sort of elements that it is. So basically in those sort of decade, we had people like the introduction of Lamanda Luaga, who would go on to become President of Bangalla. We had a dictator, which was General Baba Boo, and a lot of other sort of people. And this story is one of the good ones. It's one of the best ones. But one of the stories that does come out of this story is the traditional sort of way they made the monkey male and the falcon, Fracas the falcon, in the stories. Now, we get to have a delves into the history of past Phantoms from the Chronicles, and we will be getting into that very soon. So there's this electrical technician that had just been at the Army Palace, that whatever they've got to be calling it, Army Palace or whatever you've got to be calling it. But there's an electrical technician who has just got a fright of his life. He's been working on this sort of radio in the building, and then an outburst by this other colonel guy who is looking to try and get revenge on Lamanda Luaga. And then after that job, he is then fixing the Phantom radio that the Phantom uses sometimes. And then that also delves into a story about the Chronicles. So the story about the Chronicles is that the Phantom, he basically invents a new way so they can communicate over like miles and kilometers, as you'd say, an Australian term. He finds a way to deliver messengers without going into jungle messengers and basically wasting people's time, and he finds a quicker solution to get messages to where they need to be. So in this sort of chronicle, we see the Phantom. He comes back from a mission, obviously, and he's barely surviving. He's got a gash in his probably left arm, and they have basically caught the guy who is then going to basically probably die, because we're talking about past Phantom adventures. We're talking about when people actually get hanged, and he actually sends a message through monkey mail, and when that doesn't work, he sends another message. He sends two messages, one from a jungle sort of native person and one from a monkey male. So when that monkey male doesn't make it, he then passes it on to some sort of falcon. And that's where we have a situation where the Phantom basically invents a new way to solve a solution that may have ended in someone's life being taken away. And that person may have not even committed that crime. They may have been basically forced to do it, or they may have been in the wrong place at the right time, in the wrong place at the wrong time, and all that sort of stuff. So this guy that's just about to get hanged, there's this message that comes to Redbeard, and obviously that message works, and Redbeard notices it's from the commander of the Jungle Patrol, because back in those days, Redbeard was one of the first ever members of establishing the Jungle Patrol, and that's how we usually say when they did the Jungle Patrol, when Lee Falk actually created the Jungle Patrol to basically protect the natives and from bad people from influencing the natives to do bad things. So the Jungle Patrol, it was a very, very good invention by Lee Falk. It was a very, very good invention anyways, and we'll get back to the story. Now the Phantom he's finished the story from the Chronicles. He's going on this big adventure to find out what is happening to this army, these army rebels who are going to try and take down Lamanda and take force Lamanda into making a decision that he doesn't want to make. They're trying to basically blow up a volcanic. They're trying to do a volcanic eruption, and also they're trying to basically flood. They're trying to flood Motawan from its new reservoir, which they had only built real recently in this comic. Now, everything I do say about this comic, it's only sort of fictional. There's probably none of it is quite true. None of it is, what would you say, real, I guess. So it's in a fictional world, and when you get stuck into that fictional world, it's a great time. You get to basically take a moment out of your life to discover the world of the Phantom and to discover the universe it is actually in, which consists of the Phantom and his villains and everything that else happens in the comic strip. And that's including the Sundays as well. We see if you're basically thinking about it all the time, then there might be I'm going to stick out of that. But then the Phantom, he obviously gets away, gets through a sort of the water reserve and reservoir, and he's in a life and death situation. He goes back to the Phantom Skull Cave, and he basically sends a message through from Freka, and he also sends a message through to the jungle monkey mail system. And one of those monkey males, or one of the falcons that is trained to do this, actually reaches Lamanda and makes sure that that message gets to him, so that the situation that they're in right now does not happen. So that then leaves the Phantom being victorious, and then he goes back to finish off the mission basically scare the nimwits out of the rebels, the army rebels, and then Lamanda Luaga's army comes in and mops it all up and cleans it all up. And then the Phantom goes. He goes and he receives a special visitation from Lamanda Luaga and thanks him for doing this or something. And then we have a new ad, and I've been saying this ad for the last couple of weeks and the last couple of months. If you haven't bought the newest and the greatest new Phantom board game there is, you can get the Treasures of Dracon, a Phantom board game made by a few publications. You can get that for $135, including postage, for the last couple of years. If you hadn't noticed, the Phantom fans have been basically waiting for this board game to come. It from a Kickstarter, I think in 2017 when the board game was originally getting announced, to right now, we have a physical board game that we're able to play, and we're able to send down the revolutionary sort of stuff to do with generational stuff. So if you would like this board game, if you would like to experience the funness and experience what it has to offer, you can buy that for $135 at phantomcomic.com.au. And now we have the back cover. The front cover and the back cover are done by Antonio Lemos, as I said earlier. And if you would like to subscribe to the PhantomCave YouTube channel, as I said earlier, there will be a new review coming out this Saturday. Of the Kid Phantom number 10. There'll be a new review coming of that in this Saturday. And next week on the 6th of September, we have one of the biggest interviews coming out of this year, and that's not even a thing. We have one of the biggest interviews coming out this year. It is with Jeff Weigel and Duncan Munroe on their team up on Duncan Munroe's new story. Now, I'm not going to say any more. You'll just have to wait for the advertising. You'll just have to wait for when the interview comes out next week. And I hope you enjoy your rest of your day. And let's keep safe, people. It's tough, I know, but we got to keep safe. We've got to stay safe. And as always, keep Phantom Caving, and I'll see you next week.